Hey guys, what's going on? It's Ben here. I'm back again today doing another video, and today I want to talk about a what if video, and specifically because I'm a big Houston Rockets fan and I actually like Chris Bosh a ton, I wanted to do one that I haven't done before, but it wasn't often thought about what if back in the day, and it was what if Chris Bosh would have gone to the Rockets in 2014 instead of re-signing with Miami as he did. So if you need any background on this, LeBron and Bosh were both free agents in 2014 after their 4-year stint in Miami. LeBron went back to Cleveland, and Bosh was flirting with going to Houston, which is his hometown city, or re-signing with Miami. Ultimately, he re-signed with Miami for the max, but Houston was reportedly very close and would have been the only other option he was considering. And instead of signing him, then Houston kind of went to fallback plan B and sign Trevor Ariza and a bunch of supporting pieces, but the big question remains, what if they would have signed Bosh in 2014? And so, the immediate outcome of that is they don't sign Trevor Ariza, and that's really the only one I have down here as my immediate thoughts, but I'll just talk through the rest for me. The other things that I think about are you have Chandler Parsons who's still on the team, so he's probably your small forward instead of Ariza. Bosh is your power forward. Dwight's your center. And then the backcourt is still Patrick Beverley and Harden. And then, Chandler Parsons was a free agent, so he's gone. So you're probably bringing in Corey Brewer to be your starting small forward at this point because they had also signed him. And then as backups, you have Jason Terry still and Josh Smith still and Terrence Jones and Monty Eunice. That's your bench. Is that team better? I think so, but I think the crazy thing is they got to the Western Conference already, and I think with Bosh, he only played half of that season in 2014 to 15, so probably they would have been a little bit better in the first half of the season. But they were the 2 seed anyways, so I think they would have still been the 2 seed. They wouldn't have caught the Warriors, but they were 12 games back of the Warriors, or they were 11 games back of the Warriors for the 2 seed. They had 56 wins this year, but I don't think that maybe they get up to like 58, 59 wins that Bosh adds over Ariza, but still I don't think, Dwight missed a lot of this season. They're not like catapulting that much, and so they're probably still the 2 seed. They probably still have the same exact playoff result, like get to the playoffs and lose to the Warriors in the Western Conference Finals, so not that much different that year. 2015 to 16, now here's a season that might change a little bit. They were a way worse team. They were 41-41. Dwight missed some time and wasn't as great when he was playing, but they would have had Bosh for basically 40-something games instead of Ariza, which I think would have lifted them a little bit, and so I think, they probably end up as like the 7 seed instead of the 8 seed. I'm trying to remember who was the 7 seed this season. It was, I think it was maybe Dallas. Yeah, it was Dallas, I think. And so they would have faced like the Spurs in the first round instead of the Warriors probably. And, Bosh still would have missed his time because he still would have missed the second half of the season. So they would have been worse. So they would have, they wouldn't have had Bosh for the playoffs is what I'm getting at. So they still would have lost, I think, pretty easily in the first round. I think they still clean house and get rid of Dwight Howard and a lot of these older pieces, and they let Clint Capella start. And the big difference here is that was the last time Bosh played. He didn't play in 2016 to 17, and so really you just have all this sunk money into him that they would have previously used on Eric Gordon and Ryan Anderson, and the last one, who was it that they brought in? Gordon and Anderson, and honestly, I can't really think of anybody besides that who they brought in that offseason, but you're probably only bringing in one of those two instead of both, so probably not Ryan Anderson because they already had Bosh at power forward. Although they didn't know he'd miss the rest of his career, they figured he'd be healthy, so they probably bring in Eric Gordon, and then you're looking at a starting lineup of Beverly, Harden. They probably try and bring back somebody like Corey Brewer to play small forward still, or somebody else similarly. Power forward is Bosh, and then center is Capella. But because Bosh misses all that time, you're probably retaining Terrence Jones, who previously they had gotten rid of, and rolling with that. And they're definitely worse in that scenario because you're basically trading Bosh in exchange for Ariza and Ryan Anderson, who are big contributors on this team. And so you don't have either of those dudes. And Bosh is injured for the whole year because of the blood clots. So your core is, instead of being... Oh, they did still have Corey Brewer at this point, and they traded him for Lou Williams down the stretch. So your core is originally Pat Bev, Harden, Williams, Gordon, Ryan Anderson, and Capella, and Trevor Ariza. And instead now it's most of those dudes. Just take out Ariza and Ryan Anderson and sub in like Terrence Jones, which to me is a worse team. And they probably still win in the first round though versus Oklahoma City, and they probably still lose in the second round to the Spurs, I would say. And then getting after that, you've got the trade of Williams and Pat Bev and Montrezl Harrell for Chris Paul. I think that can still happen. So it probably does. And so then you've got a core of Chris Paul, James Harden, Eric Gordon. They probably still bring in PJ Tucker, and they have Capella. But again, just a way shorter bench. Like, they had some decent depth in 2018, but now it's like those 5 dudes, and that's basically it, of Capella, Tucker, Gordon, Harden, and Chris Paul. And I would say they probably still get to the Western Conference Finals, but they probably, to me, more get like they probably lose in 5 games or a sweep rather than 7 games. And they probably struggle way more versus Utah in the second round. And so then this would have been the last year of that Chris Bosh contract, so he probably leaves then. And then they actually probably have a better outlook keeping Chris Paul because they think, like, you know, we've had this Bosh contract hanging over us. We now have a fresh slate. I think Chris Paul and Harden would have been willing to stay together a little bit longer. And they probably wouldn't have ended up trading Chris Paul for Westbrook, I would guess. And so it just is interesting. But what's also interesting to think is that they probably do still re-sign Chris Paul to the big contract after 2018. But honestly, so what's crazy to me is that, like, you swap out Bosh for basically Trevor Ariza and Ryan Anderson. That's basically the difference on this team. And because Bosh missed a lot of time, when he was healthy, they were a better team, but when he wasn't, they were worse. But it kind of evens out, and honestly, Houston probably ends up in a pretty similar scenario. But maybe just keeping, like, Chris Paul, like, 1 year longer, to me, is the biggest difference. But relatively similar playoff results. And I was going to do a scenario where, like, what if they signed Bosh and he would have been healthy? But that seemed not realistic because it just would have been like, like, maybe Houston wins a title and that kind of thing. But I didn't really want to do that because it just was going to be way too hard to predict. So there you have it, guys. I think if Houston would have signed Bosh, they would have been in a really bad financial position, and they would have had a worse 2016 to 17 season and 17 to 18 season. But overall, I think they'd actually be in a relatively similar position as a team. That's all I got for today, guys. Hope you enjoyed the video. It's a little bit different, but I just want to do it because I've been meaning to make this one for a while and haven't. But that's all I got, and hope you guys have a good day, and I'll see you next time. Bye.